recorded. I'm Casper Tokal, one of the co-founders of Sacred Design Lab. And I'm just so delighted to see you all here as we dive into this conversation with Matt Goldstein from Gaia Music Collective and with each other, exploring how music is already part of our spiritual innovation work, how we might lean into it a little bit more. I'm seeing friends old and new joining us from around the world. If you haven't yet shared where you're dialing in from in the chat, please do so. Glad to have you all here. With my colleagues, or my colleagues who are here with me, are Angie Thurston. Hello, Angie.
Hi, Casper. Hi, everyone. Great to see you.
Great to have you, Ange. And our new colleague, Tony Kershaw, who is running the tech and all the, if you've enjoyed the upgraded slides and music production values, that's all down to our wonderful friend, Tony, who is on board with us today as well. So welcome, Tony. Excellent. Well, as we dive in, I'm glad to see we've got Holly joining us from Derby in the UK, Suzanne in Kingston, New York, Kashira, oh my goodness, in Colombia, beautiful, amazing travels. We've got Maria in Manila, amazing, Courtney in Montana, Corey in Portland, Oregon, many friends all over the world. So we're so glad to have you here. And I know we've got some incredible musicians on the call as well. So I bow down to your musical abilities and look forward to learning together. We've got Carlos from Madrid. Excellent. So glad to have you all here. Okay, so as a reminder, for those of you who are new to these conversations, we host a platform called spiritualinnovation.org, which if you haven't checked it out yet, I hope you very much will take a look around. I'll put it here in the chat. It's really a resource hub with amazing stories about spiritual innovators, incredible resources that hopefully can help you in the work that you're doing. Helping you think through questions from funding to leadership to all the beauties and challenges of leading communities and projects that help people's spiritual lives. And it also has a directory where you can create a profile for yourself and for your organization and connect with other spiritual innovators through there. So if you haven't done that yet, please go and check out the spiritualinnovation.org hub. And these gatherings every 6 weeks or so are an opportunity to dive deeply into one specific question or a specific theme. And so over the last few weeks, our wonderful colleague Amy has been putting together a couple of briefings around specific themes. One of them was about food and spiritual innovation, which I hope Tony can post in the chat, and another about music. And that will be our focus for today. And as we thought about spiritual innovation and music, I wanted to invite someone who really is doing that work in a fabulously creative way and who's been able to build it into really a global phenomenon. Matt, I hope you'll forgive me for saying that. And so I wanted to invite my wonderful friend, Matt Goldstein, who's the founder and artistic director of the Gaia Music Collective, to join us in some conversation, to kind of dive into what it looks like in practice, to gather people together, to make music together, really both for the beauty of making music, but also for the experience of connection. And Matt is, I think, one of the most gifted, not just a choir director and educator and facilitator and vocal arranger and singer-songwriter and improviser, but he has this wonderful ability to cultivate an experience of people gathered together who maybe are a little shy about singing. Maybe, some people get told that their voices aren't good enough or that they should just keep quiet in the back. But to kind of unleash people's creative, collaborative capacity. And so he really helps create accessible spaces where everyday people can pursue musical expression and connection. And he's done this now with tens of thousands of people, including, from my little British heart, Natasha Bedingfield, the original cast of Hamilton. But he arranges pieces of music that a lot of people love and then helps people sing it in 6-part harmony. And he's launching, if you're interested in learning about facilitating in the way that he does, he's launching a facilitator training program next year. So follow him on Instagram or wherever you can find him to keep updated on that. So, Matt, I want to just invite you, first of all, just to share a little bit, like, okay, you love music, but like, how did you come up with this idea for the Gaia Music Collective? How did that come about?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Casper. It's an honor to be here around people who are invested in nurturing our poor, unnurtured spirits. Um, Gaia sort of emerged. It was out of the pandemic, out of 2021. As soon as we were vaccinated and able to gather again, I just thought the way I wanted to gather most was through music. Partially because I love the feeling of singing in harmony and because I think it's juicy, but also because throughout my life in theater, in music, in choir, those spaces have been the spaces where I felt most connected to myself, to other people, to the world around me. And so I started hosting these living room sings. And I really think Casper also hosts some wonderful living room sings. I think a living room is a great place to sing. And I hosted these sings, and the focus was both on we'd play some like improv singing games, circle singing in the tradition of Bobby McFerrin, but also in combining that with sharing, just sharing about our lives or meaning that we're making from our music, from our lives, and letting those two things kind of spiral each other upwards into something really electric. And it sort of grew from there and has now, yeah, I've now accidentally started an organization. Oops. But at its heart, it's really living room sings.
It's I will testify to Matt's ability to do this. At one of my living room things, Matt picked up a magazine, like just off the table, and it proceeded to like improvise a song and teach people different parts based on the words in the magazine. Now it happened to be Butt Magazine for any of those of you who are
Love the
familiar
song about butts.
with that publication. So it was an interesting experience. But Matt, we thought maybe as a way to give people a little flavor of how you do it. And of course, Zoom is not a living room, so we will work with the living room capacity of our Zoom experience. But would you lead us in a little like opening practice just to help us kind of settle in and experience that together?
Sure. Sure, happy to. And Santu, I'm seeing your question here. How do you manage to be able to hear everyone sing over Zoom? It's really, Zoom is not built for singing. There's an option, which you can find in the audio settings, to turn on original sound for musicians, which can sometimes help. But the ways that I've actually found singing to be most successful in a group like this on Zoom is if one person, in this case me, is on mic and the rest of us are probably muted. So we can, at least I can sing with each of you. I might not be able to hear you back, but we can have the experience of singing together in a small way. And so for this next moment, yeah, inviting you all to join in either singing along if you feel comfortable making sound, or just bearing silent witness if you're not in a place where singing or making sound feels good. That's a great option too. Let's just start waking up our voices a little. So repeat after me. Ooh. Brrr. Ay, 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 ay. Yeah, yeah. Anytime I'm
That feels
doing,
good.
right? Yeah, anytime I'm doing call and response with folks, I like to throw in some options that aren't super super singy, because then we can start to take ourselves too seriously. So it's nice to show in a little bit. And then now, this is something we've tried. We do this in our meetings for the Gaia team sometimes, to just try to slow down and ground with each other and really tune into our breath. So I invite you, if you're comfy, to close your eyes or lower your gaze somehow, to just kind of be with your own breath in your body. And for the next minute or so, I'm going to sing some long tones, just some long hums, one note at a time. And I invite you to sing along, either matching the pitch that I'm singing or playing around with harmony some way, and letting the notes be really long rather than exploring, lots of fast moving melodies, just exploring one long note at a time, one long note at a time. And when I'm done, I'll snap my fingers a little bit to cue us to open our eyes or lift them back up and come back. So for the next minute, we'll just go on this little journey. Here we go. And again, these experiments are always, they're experiments. So invite anyone to share in the chat what that experience was like for you, if it was awkward or exciting or anything in between.
I find it just so calming. I was like a little baby being held, just someone singing to you. It's always lovely. Sikashira was saying so sweet. Will loved it. Vocal yoga. Oh, I like that, Maria. That's nice. Oh, connective
All the
resonance, Sophie.
songbirds. That's so sweet.
Well, one of the things, Matt, you just used this word experiment. You've already used words like play. And it's one of the things I noticed immediately when I went to Gaia as a participant was that how you frame music, how you invite people into making music together feels so different from a lot of the places that I've experienced where it's about rehearsal and practicing and kind of, you want it to sound good. So you need to be disciplined about it. But the words you use are much more like playful games, exercises, experiments. And so I wanted to ask you, is that kind of core to how you help strangers sing together? Like what are some of the philosophies, I guess, that you embody in Gaia's work that help people sing together for the first time?
Yeah, such a good question. I also came from the choir world where it was about rigor and perfection, and I found that in entering these community singing spaces, that's so inhibiting for people. And so what I approach all singing spaces with the same invitation that I made here, right? To participate as you desire, and also to have the autonomy to adjust the invitation I'm making to fit you, or to just sit back and pass or not participate at points. If anyone feels like they're forced to participate the whole time, especially in something as vulnerable as singing, your body starts to release all this cortisol and stress, and it's like, oh, I'm stuck, I'm trapped, I'm being forced, and it's not fun, it's not free. And I find that when you give people permission to step back, they actually usually lean further in. And so that I think is key, just like opening any singing space with like everything here is an invitation, take it or leave it. And like I said, with the call and response, like demonstrating both through your speech, but also just through your own embodiment as a leader, that like mistakes are welcome, voice cracks are welcome. Sometimes when I'm leading a singing space, I'll be leading call and response, and I'll be like, la la la, and everyone sings la la la, and then I go la, and then challenge everyone to copy a voice crack, to just be in a room together. And then I look around and I'm like, and we're okay, like that's the worst that happens, and it's fine. And to just really give people an embodied sense of, we're not here to impress anybody, we're not here to compete. And I'll say these too, like when we're working on a choral piece, like if someone next to you sounds more confident on the part, they are a resource for you. They're a collaborator for you. They're not a competition for you. They're not a threat for you. And that also helps in, I'm always, in any space I'm in, before we get too deep into the singing, inviting people to, talk to a neighbor, share a little check-in question, so that we can remember, like, these are really our friends, our neighbors. They're not our competitors, because a lot of us are bringing competitive trauma to performing arts.
Right. And it's like in terms of our theme for today of thinking about music as a way of connecting to ourselves, to one another, to something greater than ourselves. it's kind of ironic that that very setting can end up creating this kind of competitive or like shame-based situation. So I love hearing about some of the tools you use. You mentioned check-ins. That really struck me as well when I went to Gaia for the first time, was that you intentionally, again, unlike a traditional rehearsal, you invite people to kind of pair up and just like say, hey, what happened this week for you, or what's on your heart today, so that when you're walking around the room or when you're sitting next to someone and singing together, there's also just this sense of like, well, I know Sophie, or I met Adam, or whoever it was. Can you give us like, do you have like a sort of flow in your mind for the opening 10 minutes of every Gaia session? Like, what are some of the beats that
Yeah,
you always hit?
totally, totally. Yeah, the beats. I mean, I'd say the beats start with the invitation. This is something I think Priya Parker speaks beautifully about, that like how you speak about what you're calling in begins in any social media someone's seeing about it, the invitation, the event page, whatever it is. Um, and then when we're actually in the space, I usually open with um, kind of interchangeably. Sometimes I'll open, if I'm feeling spicy, I'll open right with the call and response, just like, whoa, and just see people, whoa.
Oh.
Um, or I'll start with these ground rules of, welcome, a little laying out. Here's what we're here to do today. Here are the ground rules. Here are the invitations, permission slips for everyone. Then we'll start to slowly wake up our bodies. Sometimes like body percussion can be a good way to get people, or humming, instead of diving right into singing. After we've been doing a little call and response for like 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes, um, I'll then invite people to turn small groups, two, three, four, or if it's a more intimate circle, if it's like 15 or less people, we'll just all go around the circle and share. And it's usually name, pronouns, and some sort of check-in question. It could be, what's real in your world today? I love this question. What's real in your world today? You can take it any you want. What's alive for you? Sometimes we'll do a rose, thorn, bud, like what's something that's feeling fulfilling, something feeling challenging, something you're looking forward to. Or it could be a check-in about, I try not to make the check-in about music, about like, so what's your favorite artist? Or like, what's some, like, I find that it's actually more enriching for people to remember that there's many diverse perspectives coming in. We already know that everyone in this room is here in some way connected to music. What other connection points do we have outside the room other than like, what was your first concert? At least that's my personal approach.
Nice.
And then after that, I'll tend to do something a little bit like what we just did, a grounding, slowing in nature, because people will often be bringing anxiety. So whether it's singing long tones, looping some sort of chord progression over and over, something to stimulate the vagus nerve, and through some long breathing and singing, and that usually gets the last little heebie-jeebies out, and then we can get into the meat of wherever we've gathered to do.
The space is also important, right? Because you like don't set it up in rows of people facing you. It's very much like a circular experience, so it does feel like that kind of living room environment where you can kind of see each other, and you're getting sound from all across the
Oh
room.
yeah.
So that coziness, I think, that's another word that I always think of with Gaia, is like there's just a sweetness to that gathering.
Yeah, circles are so important to me and to these practices. Like I'm always, it's sometimes problematic because I'll be collaborating with someone and they're like, "Oh, we have this beautiful theater," and I'm like, "Theater with seats? I don't know. Can we stand in a circle?" And so like today at this ACD, I'm at a choral conference today, and tonight we're doing a one-day choir in the Providence Mall, and we're standing in a big circle. You know how in a mall
Wow.
sometimes there'll be like the multiple floors have like a cutout in the middle.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be like gathered on multiple levels in this huge oval. Oh, someone's knocking on my hotel room door. Hello?
As you
No, thank you.
live from the hotel room in Providence, friends.
Yeah.
Matt, one of the things I've loved seeing that happens, and I think this is one of the signs of a healthy community, is that a healthy community is never just for itself. And so seeing how Gaia has also looked to be of service to the world more generally, I know there's kind of groups from Gaia who've gathered together to like practice protest songs, for example. Or I know you've done like a 24-hour sing raising money around environmental causes and bringing musicians from all around the world together. Can you talk about, especially now for those of us in the US, you know, we've seen how the singing resistance in Minneapolis especially has been such a powerful way for people to gather to express really powerful values and commitments. And I'm thinking about how music is a tool for social change and justice work. And you even did like rock the vote events to help people, you know, to mobilize people around the last election here in the United States. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship kind of between social change and music and how you think about it?
Such a good question. I think at its core, vocal music and group singing are about listening, and they're about finding our voice and using our voices to express a message that is bigger than ourselves. Um, you know, if you really just think about like what's happening here, it's like 100 people are singing these words, and that means something. Um, and so I think that is inherently a tool for social impact, you know, depending on how we choose what we sing, where we sing it. Um, and I think it is radical, and it is an act of activism simply to empower people, simply to give people permission to use their voices to build that relationship, especially if it's been broken with their own voices, and to do that in community with other people. And then there's so many opportunities to make that more, even more direct, depending on whatever, you know, purposes one might be using it for. You know, I think in those cases, just the intention matters. Like we in Gaia, we're trying never to gather people to sing for one thing and then like, you know, post on social media like, and here's why everyone was singing for this thing, because people might have come
Yeah.
for different reasons. So if we are singing for a particular purpose, singing for resistance, you know, then we're making it very clear. If you come to this, it's because you want to sing about this. Um, but we never want anyone to feel like they are having to contribute their voice to a message that they don't believe in, because that's one of the thing that gives me the ick sometimes is like I'll be in a space and someone will lead a song that's like, we all feel safe, everyone.
Yeah.
We all feel, and I'm like, wait, my words matter, and I don't want to be coerced to say something that I don't resonate with. There's an active
Yeah.
dissonance there. So um, I'm always hesitant to, I'm careful with the words that I'm inviting people to sing in, and making sure that they're an invitation so that I'm not just like, I feel happy good. Who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows?
I really appreciate that. Yeah, because it is sometimes easier to sing things rather than say them, but you're still making a statement which you want to make sure you feel good about. I like that. I like that. Matt, one of the tactical questions I do want to ask you is you have grown Gaia's like digital following across TikTok and Instagram at least to like more than 500,000 people, and it's an astonishing thing to like look through the comments section of a video that you'll post, and people are just like rabid. They're like, please come to Sydney, you know, we need you in Oslo or wherever, and the videos are really beautifully done. Like how do you manage the first of all, like what worked in getting the voice out there and getting so many people excited about Gaia, but then secondly, how do you manage the balance between the integrity of the experience, right, feeling like you're in a living room, and then also capturing content that can be turned into that kind of, you know,
Mm.
captivating stuff, for online.
It's so tricky, that line. Like, it always feels like you're there. Yeah, there's a certain sacrifice that has to be made, because I think ideally these technologies aren't anywhere in the room. We're in the room for the sake of being in the room. But if that was the case, then no one would find out about the room, because we're in an era where this
Yeah.
is how we find out about the room. So, um, consent, I think, is important on all of our, you know, event pages. It's just like, this is going to be filmed. If you have concerns about that, let us know. Um, And especially if the room is more intimate, or what we're capturing is more intimate, we'll check in and be like, eyes closed, like, please raise your hand if you have any trouble with being filmed in this moment. But in general, the strategy has been to try and capture the magic and then spend time on TikTok, on Instagram, learning about how people are telling short form stories these days, and how people are framing what they're sharing. And really, like, those first 2-3 seconds, you have this split second to, in what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and any text you have on that screen, to try to communicate what's special about this thing. And so, we're putting this video of people singing in a basement, and we're like, what's special? What might not people understand? They might not understand these people are strangers. They came together for one day. They might not understand anyone can join this room, right? That this is not professional singers. So we're trying to, like, put these little taglines on the front of the video in those first moments that are like, here's what's special about this. Here's why you might be interested to stick around to second 5, to second 6. And it's a little slimy to have to, like, communicate in such a reduced way. And so we're actually in the middle of hiring a new media and marketing manager right now to try to be like, how can we balance some of that, like, clickbaity stuff with telling some of the fuller stories of people's experience, testimonials, the connection happening in the room beyond, here's people singing in awesome harmony. Oh my God, I love that song. What are the experiences of people coming away with, so that someone who's on the edge of being like, is this for me, might feel more trust.
That's really interesting. Kind of like a both and, like, getting really smart about that. And that's helpful to think about what's unexpected about this clip that I'm sharing. Is it an unexpected place, unexpected people, unexpected context, but also the deeper storytelling, which I guess also mirrors a little bit Gaia's model, because it people sign up for a one-time experience, right? You're not signing up for a 3-month or a 3-year kind of program. You're coming for 3 hours, and you're going to have this, or 6 hours, whatever it is, depending on the experience. And you're going to have this amazing moment, but it's transitory in that sense. Like, you're never going to be in that room again with the same exact people. But you see a lot of people coming back and back and back to Gaia experiences because they love that feeling. So kind of having both and. Matt, I want to turn to some of the research that we pointed to in the briefing, and maybe Tony, you can post the music briefing in the chat just for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. But one of the things that I find really interesting, especially with singing, is that I think for a lot of people who aren't necessarily religious or spiritual and wouldn't use those words, music is one of the most important ways they might access a sense of transcendence or being part of something bigger. I remember reading some research that, like, nature and music were the most important ways in which people who are not religious access that sense of, if I can use that spiritual word, spirituality. And so they might describe that sense of feeling connected to something bigger, transcendence. And even in more secular words, a sense of relief from despair, or a sense of hope that's possible. Do you think of Gaia as like a spiritual project? It's never how you talk about it publicly, but I'm curious, like, how do you make sense of that kind of deeper part of what you're doing?
That's a great question. I do think of it as a spiritual project, but I would not speak about, like you said, I don't really speak about it that way, because I think that I like to let the music speak. This is one of my favorite things to do is, and again, it kind of goes along the lines of like nonviolent communication, of like not telling people what they might experience or what they're meant to experience. I hesitate to be like, you're meant to feel X or Y or Z spiritual fulfillment, but every time it is felt. And by at least someone in the room. And one of my favorite things to do after one of these, we'll do kind of an elongated version of what we did just now, eyes closed, long tones. We call it "See You on the Other Side." It's adapted by a teacher of mine named Rhiannon. And where all our eyes are closed, it's just these slow, long-moving chords. Everyone's adding their single note, one long note at a time. And you hear these shifting harmonies and people, then we open our eyes and I say, what did you notice? Just like popcorn from the room, what did you notice? And the most beautiful and profound we sounded like a forest. We sounded like the universe singing itself. I felt so connected to everyone. It felt like we were one body, and then I opened my eyes and remembered that we were many. I felt more connected to you all with my eyes closed than I felt with my eyes open. Like all these people just saying all these really profoundly beautiful things
Wow.
every time about this experience of connection, which I think is really highlighted when your eyes are closed and when you're seeing something so simple, just one note, just one note. And it's always so moving to me, and across all these practices, like that spirit is there. I think there's just something innate about um, singing in harmony, and I don't even know that it's necessary or useful to interrogate why, because it just so deeply is.
Beautiful. And I love you pointing to, because I think sometimes with music we might like strive towards complexity, right? Like we're really, and that can be beautiful too, and there can be majesty and power in it. But as you said, sometimes it's like long, simple notes, like just getting together in a place where, you're dropping into a deeper resonance with each other just by doing something that's really simple, that can actually sometimes be the most effective way to cultivate that sense of connection that you're pointing to. And I really appreciate your care in not labeling for people what they're going to experience, and also inviting them to name what it was that they did experience. So it's because I think that the challenge of not inviting it at all is that people don't actually notice that was a profoundly beautiful experience in which they felt something, out of the everyday. And so I think there's so much wisdom in that openness of the invitation, but then still making space for people to name what it
Yeah,
is that they found.
yeah,
Please,
because you get
final
this.
word, Matt. Yeah.
Well, then you get this overlapping. It's just, oh yes, Roisin, that's exactly. Simi has said, we don't have to resonate with each other's meaning, but we can bear compassionate witness to one another's meaning making. That there can be
Beautiful.
so many overlapping meanings in a room, and maybe some of them resonate with you, some of them don't. But just because someone is making meaning of an experience that you shared, it's different than the meaning you make, does not mean that their meaning is less valid, that your meaning is less valid, and that doesn't mean we can't still share that experience.
Beautiful. So good, Rasheen. Wonderful. Matt, I am so grateful to you, not just for this conversation, but just for creating the spaces that you do and helping others learn how to do it too. I know you're not just a wonderful facilitator, but a teacher of facilitation. So if you're interested in learning more from Matt, do follow him on Instagram, and keep an eye out for the facilitation training that he's offering later in the year. He's a skilled, wonderful guy, as you can see in action. And in a moment, we'll invite everyone just to do some personal reflection, to think about what resonates from this conversation, and then we'll break out into conversation. So we'll get to chat with each other. But for now, Matt, I want to say a huge thank you for all you do, for being here. So grateful.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Enjoy the mall.
Yes, wish me luck, everybody. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you
Matt.
so much, Matt.
Angie.
Casper. Hi, everyone. Oh, what a treat. That was such a joy to get to hear from him. And I loved everything that was being shared as well. So, this is an opportunity to now take some of that reflection and to turn inward for a little bit and think about a couple of questions. So, if you have a journal with you, or a phone or other device, or you could just take this as a little moment of meditation, we have a few questions for you, a few prompts. And I think that, thank you, Lauren. I think that we have getting shout outs for the glasses from the chat. I am going to give you a couple questions, and Tony has put them up here. So what, first of all, might be a new way that you could integrate music into your spiritual innovation work? We know some of you here, and we imagine many of you here have music in your lives in some way, and perhaps in your work in some way, in your communities in some way. And so, based on this conversation we just had with Matt, what are some new insights or ideas coming to you in the direction of that meditative, reflective work, stimulating calm. It could be more in that participative, facilitated, movement-based type of experience that stimulates connection. We talked about justice making and the power of song in bringing people together towards social change. So just an opportunity to think about that for a bit. And then with that, what might you need to help make that happen, to help make some of that new integration happen in your life, in your work? So let's just take a moment to do that. I think we have, let's say 2-3 minutes, and I believe Tony has some Gaia music for us to accompany your journaling.
Show 'em you've been loved. Show 'em how I love you. You came to sing your song. They just came to record you. Oh, wring me dry. Wring me dry. Pour out all the water from inside. Oh, let it shine through. Show 'em you've been loved. Show 'em how I love you. Show 'em you've been loved. Cry with me, my son, then go rest your head. Sing our favorite songs, the ones we sang that way. What's a memory for if we let him die? Live forever in love that's always alive. Transformation prayers, Life isn't idling, we cry and we leave. The joy in your eyes, let him see. Show 'em you've been loved, show 'em how I love you. Show the love, sing a song, sing and record you. Oh, make me dry, pour out all the water from inside. Oh, let it shine through. Show 'em you've been loved. Make me real, I don't wanna be a hologram. Let me heal every shadow till I'm born again. Let me heal till I'm born again. God, give us this hope one day at a time. All I see is this mountain and not a climb. Till I learn to love me for who I am. Show 'em you've been loved. Show 'em how I love
Hey, I'm so glad you posted it, Tony. Um, that song is available for all of us to listen to over and over again. And Tony has posted it in the chat. So thank you all for that moment of both reflection and such a beautiful musical interlude. We're going to now get into groups so that you can share with each other. And I'll very quickly just introduce those breakouts to say we have just 3 little notes of etiquette. Please treat these breakout spaces as confidential, so stories here can stay, but any lessons or insights you take away, please feel free to share. And if you're not able to go into groups, just stay here in the main room if for whatever reason your space doesn't allow it. And we also, I think that we've removed any note takers or bots, but we're going to make sure that they're all people in those groups. And if you end up for some reason in a group by yourself or with someone who can't actually come on off of mute, then just come back to the main group and we'll make sure that you get into a new one. So with that said, I will give you a few questions to consider in your conversation. The first is we'd love for you to just share with each other what drew you to a session on spiritual innovation and music. This is a particular intersection, and I know such a passion for so many. And so we're curious, what was it that had you say yes and give your time this way? What stood out to you the most from what Matt shared? And what new idea, perhaps from the journaling you just did, are you curious to try in your community or with your project? So there's an invitation for your groups, and we'll spend about 18 minutes in the breakout groups. So please just make sure that everyone in your group gets a chance to share who wishes to share in that time. I'll just turn to Casper and Tony in case there's anything else you want to offer, and then I think we'll open rooms.
Ready to roll. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. So we'll jump into our small groups. Tony will open those in a moment, and I'll stay here in the main room if you have any questions or need any help with anything. Or as Will so amusingly mentioned in the comments, you're not supposed to be in this webinar, but you're doing something else. So Tony, let's open those groups, and then we'll be ready to roll. Thanks, Ange. All right. Welcome back. For those of you just coming out of your small group, welcome back, welcome back. We'll just give the final groups a minute or two, in fact, 5 seconds before they're yanked out of their small group. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I'll just ask you to make sure you're muted on your microphone as we re-enter the whole group. And just thank you so much for stepping into those conversations with one another. I hope you learned about some new projects or some new ideas. It's always a great opportunity to just get an insight into other people's experience. So I see Lauren celebrating group 3 there in the chat. That's awesome. So friends, we've got about 15 minutes left. We'll have a short closing practice at the end, but really what I want to use this time for is to invite you to share what sparkled for you. What did you learn from your conversation? What are you curious about now? Is there something you're interested in learning more about, for checking out maybe an organization, maybe an approach to facilitating music making or music listening together? That's something we didn't touch on today, but there was fascinating research that we included in the briefing of just listening to music together really can help people experience a sense of calm and connection too. So I'd love to know in the chat, or if you're willing to share by unmuting yourself and sharing here as well. What are you learning, and what are you curious about learning more about in the future? Isabella, I'm just going to read your share here. I'm going to type here for my group because my cafe is loud. But over Mardi Gras, I attended a dawn parade in which beautiful choral singing led us to the actual sunrise. Oh, wow. And at that point, the singer started animalistic vocals, and the audience immediately knew what to do. We all barked, whistled, crowed, etc. And so trained singing can be an opening in surprising ways. Oh my gosh, I love this. What an awesome a mix also of like embodiment, moving and singing and vocalizing together in a ritual setting. That sounds fantastic. Isabella, I want to go wherever you are on that. Yeah, exactly. Lauren, I'm joining you. Take me with you, please. Love that. Love that. What else? What else sparkled for you? Something that is singing for you, perhaps, or is tingling your brain? Something you might want to try, something you want to experiment in your community leadership, or something you're curious about learning more about.
Well, I think there's something beautiful about the way music brings people together. I'm trying to figure out how to do something like this in a setting with professionals that are not, creatives or artists. And, like standing in front of this group of them and saying, okay, we're going to sing now,
Yeah.
and just kind of pushing through, because a lot of them are going to be like, what? And, but then I have experienced this before where it just pushes through there's like a culture in the room that of
Yeah.
professionalism. It pushes through that into some more human thing. And I just love that.
I love that, Jeffrey, and good on you for giving it a go. I'll share one thing that I learned from a singing teacher, which was so helpful for me, which was before I got people to sing together, I asked them just to turn to each other and say, I can't wait to hear you sing. I can't wait to hear you sing. And everyone laughs and it's so cheesy, but it works. Like it just creates a little bit more invitation. And so if that can be helpful to you, I share that in your pocket. But yeah, you're so right that that culture of kind of, oh, I have to present in a certain way or professionalism, whatever it is, it can really inhibit the actual connection that people want to feel together. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, absolutely. Nate, how about you?
Yeah, Nate here from Boston. Great to be on this call. A friend of mine from Europe just was like, maybe you want to go to this. And so I do work with communal improvisation and a bunch of stuff that resonates with Matt. And yeah, Gaia was somebody that I was actually going to reach out to about collaborating in New York. So this was just a lovely synchronicity. And I often say that I use music as a social technology, as a vehicle for self-regulation and connection, blah, blah, blah. You know, we all know the stuff here. And so I'm grateful for this Sacred Design Lab space because in my personal research, I became very interested, like, well, what are all the other social technologies? Like, if I'm going to walk around saying that, I would like to have a better sense for all the other ones. So connected with a chef last night, talked about food, and I'm excited for the other research you guys have had cooking here. So thanks a bunch.
Awesome, Nate. I love that. And I really think, I mean, Isabella's Mardi Gras example is so good too. Like thinking about dance, thinking about movement, as you said, like it's not just one tool. There's this whole toolbox that we can draw on. So that's, yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, beautiful. Other folks, Tew, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know that you're always thinking as a ritual maker, as a gatherer, how are you thinking about music?
It was so interesting. I got a little emotional in our group because in a previous life I used to be a singer, and then when I moved into this, I was a professional singer-songwriter. There was a time.
I didn't know that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Because I shelved it and compartmentalized it and put it away, and it has remained in this separate identity to the extent that I have like walked away from it in very, very early days. I remember like turning myself into like singing at certain points. I remember one woman saying you shouldn't do that, and I was so shut down by that. I didn't do it ever again. I was like, oh no, I can't, because it becomes a separation. If I'm in any way better than the people who I'm encouraging, then I'm somehow discouraged. So I just stopped doing it completely. And this call has made me go, that was a lot of power to give one time of feedback and to put this massive wall up that has separated this big part of my heart for years. So I'm quite emotional today. But in terms of the spaces that I have, one of the things I've done, I don't marry people anymore, but when I did, I used to get everyone to hum. Just
beautiful.
And when you're doing the vows, get the whole room to hum.
Wow.
And get everyone, as they're humming, to imagine that the sound they're making is like a thread that is going out from their heart and wrapping around the couple. And then the vows are wrapping around the couple. And it goes on a while, but because it goes on such a long time, everyone loses their sense of worrying about how they sound, and it's a really beautiful experience. So that group hums are gorgeous, and the more you can huddle, the closer you can get, the better they are.
So good.
Yeah, so I feel personally like I just want to have a hug and a love thing. Yeah, so I feel quite emotional from today, so thank you.
Oh, Tew, sweetheart. I so appreciate that. And I saw Lauren in the chat resonating too, and other people really nodding and smiling along. And I think that, yeah, your experience is one that so many people have felt, you know, even people who are really good singers will have, you know, I'm married to a former opera singer, so I've seen it up close, you know, how just that, the performance frame of, I think so much we think of music now as like The Voice or Britain's Got Talent or whatever those competition shows are, like that's the only standard which is allowed to be public, which is just nuts, because this is our birthright to make music together. And I love that humming humming as blessing, humming as being able to send energy or send love to people. And that can be, you can use that at the beginning of a meeting. I've often ended up using silence because that can be nice as well, just to kind of create a moment. But yeah, just giving people, it's a tool, as Nate was saying. I really love that. So thinking all the humming as blessing, Santu, that's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Natalie, did I see you unmute just before? I want to make sure I invite you in if you had something as well.
Oh, it's so funny. I'm a wedding celebrant, and I was thinking, how beautiful would it be if while you walk down the aisle, everybody was singing, like just being held by your community and more than just visual witness, but you can hear them and feel their voices. So it's so funny.
I love that. I love that. The synchronicity here. That's awesome. Will, how about you?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this call. So far, I myself lead a community on Monday nights at my church, mostly people not from the church, and we do musical and theatrical improv as a spiritual practice. So basically, like
Amazing.
improvised musical theater, but a lot of circle singing improv too. So it's been great to hear other people's experience with this and get some helpful guidance too. I loved what Matt said about not imposing how people are
Yeah.
supposed to feel and just being attentive to that and being mindful of what you might have people saying and then just asking what did you notice. I also wrote down a healthy community is never just for itself. That
Mm.
really rang true. So I yeah, just happy to be here and I'm excited. This is to me, seeing that so many people are interested in this kind of thing and that it's fulfilling for so many people, I feel a little less alone because a lot of people at my church are like, "What are you doing on Mondays? Like, we don't understand what you're doing." But to see other people understand it and get it and see it take off, like with what Matt has going on, is really encouraging for me and helps me feel excited about this work.
I love that, Will. I so appreciate that. And Angie, maybe you can put music that makes community in the chat, which is another great resource, especially for those of you working inside the Christian tradition. I know they do a lot of trainings and circle singing and paperless singing, so people aren't kind of hidden and stuck behind um, their sheet music. And well, I'm sure you're already familiar with them. But I think looking at Gaia's digital outputs is fascinating to me because people really they are rabid. They're like, come to Manila, we need you in Delhi, we want you. Like, it's like, you must come here. And just thinking about how we've usually thought about how music happens in spiritual spaces, whether it's a choir in the church or whether it's the cantor who's leading the congregation, just kind of inverting some of those expectations of what leadership looks like and who is authorized to sing. It's really beautiful to see, and also, frankly, that like you might need to start with Pink Pony Club. You might need to start with songs that people actually know. Like Matt doesn't want to lead another Wicked soundtrack circle sing, but hey, that's what gets 300 people in the room. And once they've experienced that, then he's like, "Let me tell you about what Bobby McFerrin." Like, hey, have you come across this? And so there's also just a little bit of a strategic move of where do we start, and also what do we keep inviting people into. So I just think there's a lot to learn from what they've done. I know we're coming up on to you, and then Angie, I'm going to come to you to close us out.
Just I put it in the chat earlier, but there's something called the Threshold Choir.
Oh yes,
which is where you sing at people's deathbeds, and it's so beautiful. I said when I was in my breakout room, it's like being around sort of octogenarian Billie Eilish. It's gorgeous. Like everything's super soft and breathy. It's women only. I'm sorry, but it's
great.
global. So you can look it up, and there's chapters everywhere, and it's such and you get to be the dead person in a rehearsal. You can be sat in a chair and wrapped in blankets and receive. It is so powerful.
Well, that sounds like exactly what I need on a Thursday afternoon. So yes, sign me up. Sign me up. Thank you to you. All right, friends. Thank you so much. Angela, will you close us out as we finish our conversation today?
Yes, I would be delighted to. And I just want to start with so much gratitude for all of you making this such a vibrant and meaningful space. It's really been inspiring to hear from you and to get to share this. very quick few next steps, and then we'll have a closing practice together. So our next gathering is on Wednesday, April 18th. It's at the same time as this one. So check out the newsletter from Sacred Design Lab to register for that. As always, we're very grateful to the Templeton World Charity Foundation and Fetzer Institute who make this possible for us to do. I'm going to do a big shout out for anyone who had to get up early or stay up late or leave whatever they were doing in order to be here today. We're so grateful you made the time. Please do go to spiritualinnovation.org, add your resources, add yourself to the directory, and take advantage of everything everyone has shared there. That is all in service of this beautiful life-giving work that you all are doing. And lastly, please, you'll get a survey the second you close the Zoom room, and it's I think 2 or 3 questions. It should take you about a minute to do, and we would love to, as always, get your feedback. That's always helping us to make these webinars as useful as they can be, and to create space for these conversations. So, in our last moments together, I think we have to do it too. I think we have to hum. And here's what I'm going to recommend is that I know even it's come up a number of times on this call. Many of us in this circle have been told that we couldn't sing or we shouldn't sing. And there was a beautiful line shared in my small group. We all have rhythm because we have a heartbeat. One of my group members had seen that in something she was part of. So as you said, Casper, right, this is our birthright. And so I think as we hum, I'll give us 1 minute to hum together. I just want to invite you, if it's you, receive from this circle that we are here with you, and your voice, your song is your birthright. And if it's others in the circle, that you can give through your humming that generosity, that reminder to say, this is in you, this is yours. And we support you in your voice. And for those beyond this webinar as well, that we might all feel connected by that. So I will, I'll start the hum and invite you. I know we're all muted, but to hum in your own space for the next minute or so, and just share whatever feels like it's right for you. Thank you all. May we all go bless the world with song.
Thank you, friends. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Angie. We'll be together again soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.